Live streams. Today we are in Uruguay, which is deep in South America, and it's going to be a pretty good flight tonight. This is a pretty neat country, pretty relaxed, nothing too crazy today. And like I said, for those of you who missed the announcement, we actually have a double header today. We're going to be doing a little bit of flying for an hour, and then we're going to be visiting with Command Modern Operations for those of you who catch one or who catch the other, kind of depending on how things sort of shake out there. So we have the TBM 930 today, which is an absolutely perfect aircraft for this particular assignment, except for the fact that we're taking off from, as you can see, a bunch of soft grass here, which could cause us some issues. One thing I have changed, of course, is I did go ahead and enable fancy multiplayer models, and believe it or not, that Cirrus Vision was the exact aircraft I was visualizing of taking on this flight, but I actually found the TBM to be slightly quicker. The Vision's an incredible airplane, and they did a really, really nice job modeling it, but it just was like one too slow for us, but that should be perfectly fine. So for those of you who are wondering why I was sitting around on the ground pushing buttons and twisting knobs and stuff, is basically getting this aircraft ready to go. I had to program this, I had to get this ready, I had to put this the way I liked it, get my traffic display, push these buttons. This is a great plane with some great avionics, but man, it does take a couple minutes. I mean, who was the guy who flew this thing before me? Who would do stuff like that? I mean, come on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get rolling here. This thing, go ahead and pull those elevators all the way back as we go bounce off the nasty grass here and head over to the main runway. Now, you're probably sitting here going, I think this is a field. This isn't really a main runway, but believe it or not, we are at one of these main fields here. I love that little mountain that's over there on my 1215, basically. Let's go ahead now, go bounce. One of the nice things about flight sim is you can tell the difference between runway and ground by the height of the grass. So if you actually look really carefully, you can see how the runway ends are right there. And all we're going to do is kind of swing around this way and sort of aim in that general direction. Total flight time today, I think it works out to be, it's like 41, 42 minutes. It's not too bad. The approach into Montevideo is absolutely lovely. I think you will not mind that at all. And we'll get to see some kind of neat stuff along the way. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. Make sure your inertial separators are set. And let's do it. This aircraft is just so pleasant. So an interesting thing is in the United States right now, they have a lottery that's going on, and I think it's $1.55 billion. Literally that.
Traffic. Less than 1 mile.
Yep, that definitely is the case. But they have a $1.5 billion payday right now, which is wow. But one of the interesting things, I did not buy a ticket in case you're curious, but one of the things I found very, very interesting is, people ask me, hey, you do a lot of airplane stuff. What would be the airplane that you would buy if you had that kind of money? Seeing as that much money, no joke, could easily get you like, a stealth bomber if that is something you're so inclined to purchase, which again, why would you do that kind of a thing like that? And, they were floating all sorts of fun ideas about things like, F-16s, or maybe you'd want to get one of those MiG-15s that had the two-seaters and stuff along those lines. And it was always like, those planes are just so not practical to fly. Are they awesome? Are they really, really fun toys? Oh, absolutely they are. But the downside there, as you probably know, is who's going to take care of one of those for you and things like that. But I'll get to that in a minute here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this party rolling. I'm going to take a little bit of altitude. The TBM, as you know, is not the highest performance at these altitudes. So one of the reasons I held us kind of low for a second here is I just wanted to take a picture of the lake and kind of go by it real fast, because it is kind of a neat area here. I'm actually going to switch over to heading hold. I'm going to bring us on to 210, and we're going to start making our way over to our first waypoint there. Now, one of the things I was doing, you could spend it. So one of the fun, I like that comment, but one of the fun comments that's like, $1.5 billion. Like, you buy your friend's house, you buy a new car, you buy your friends a car, you buy your friends another house, you pay for your family, you pay for their family, you pay for their mistress and all those kind of things under the sun. And you still have $1.54 billion remaining, which if you really, really think about it, it's such a staggering, like unfathomable amount of money to try to spend. Of course, I'm saying this as I was actually reading an article the other day that the most expensive house in my home state of Connecticut was just sold. And I just cannot get over how expensive that house was. It's just kind of one of those things where people will find a way, or you get those like super yachts, or maybe you'll get a B-2 BBJ or something like that. Get yourself the Boeing business jet version of the B-2 Spirit bomber. I mean, they'd never see you come. Well, actually, they'd see you coming. They just couldn't pick you up on radar ever, which would be interesting.
Low. Less than 1 mile.
Ah, man, it's so satisfying that they actually fixed the traffic display here, because so many of these things don't get that correct. One of the problems, though, let me zoom in a little bit here. Whoa, ew. Well, apparently there's one on my left co-altitude, and there's one right below me. So the interesting thing they don't tell you about traffic displays, by the way, before I start talking about the excessive amount of money they have, is these little guys right here, they disappear, then reappear over here. That's the first thing they do, which will annoy you to death. The second thing that they will do, as they're just kind of appearing and disappearing, is they'll change color to say they're on top of you, they're over here, and then, of course, they'll change color to say you're going to hit them. You get all the warning, the red X, and the traffic things yelling, and you're screaming in your ear and all those things. You're like, oh, God, I'm going to die. And then, of course, the other thing that it does, which it's just one of those things that a traffic does, is it detects you. And you're sitting there going, wait, what? Well, you got to remember that the aircraft, we use ADS-B in the United States, and what it does, which is awesome, is basically it has the capability to announce where you are, what your GPS position is, what your altitude is to everybody who's around you, so that they can pick it up. Literally, I have what they call, not a Sentinel, I have a Stratix, which is a knockoff Sentinel, but it actually will receive those signals from traffic and display them on, I use an iPad, although I also use my phone, which is an Android. And I have, the Android on my one leg, and then usually my wife is flying in the right seat with me, and she'll be sitting there with the iPad, and we'll keep an eye on traffic. But what it will do is that ADS-B signal will come off of the plane that I'm flying. So all of a sudden it goes, traffic, traffic, you're gonna die. Oh my God, you've already died. But it turns out it's you. And then when you tap it with your finger, it says, November 723, Papa Charlie or something like that. And you're like, kind of one of those sort of things. And then what you have to do is go into the settings and tell it, no, that's me. Don't tell me I'm going to hit me. And it's just, little things that the flight sims they never quite catch, but they could be irritating at the very least, kind of a thing like that. I don't know. I find it annoying. And then you give it a little more power. Of course, when I was first learning to fly many, many years ago, 2009, 10, 11, one of the things we didn't have was that. So when you got in the air, you got in your plane with analog instruments, no GPS chilling over here on the right. You got in the air, you did your thing, and you were always told, look for traffic, 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 look for traffic. Have fun, Toro. Look for traffic, look for traffic. So you're like, panicking, I'm going to die because you can't see the traffic, kind of a thing like that. And that's what you're told, because we can't see anything that's around us. You'd be lucky if you could pick up or get a warning if you're on ATC or something like that. But I can't tell you how many times during my original flight training that you'd be just doing this like I am right now, and an airplane would be right here and go, and you'd be like, oh, kind of one of those things. And it's just, we just didn't have it. So we were always at risk at that particular point, which was interesting. And it's, I don't know, things I always look back and think about when I'm thinking about my own experiences as a pilot. All right, let's get some altitude here. So if you're wondering why I'm getting up so high here, is because what I want to do is I want to be able to take advantage of the higher speed that I can travel, and then I'll come back down to lower. Snesra, I haven't seen you in a while. Also, Simon, welcome back. Sorry, Misty Toro. The interesting thing is I did take this jet out earlier to do this flight, and I actually, like I said, found it to be slower than this, which I thought was kind of interesting. But hey, the TBM is a fantastic plane. The other issue you have with traffic, by the way, is when you are talking to air traffic control, what you do is you'll get a sudden call. And they'll say, traffic is at your 11 o'clock, 6 miles, co-altitude. So you do this. Just kind of sit here like this. And then, my wife in the right seat pulls out the binoculars, and we're both kind of like this. And your brain is like every little, like, this thing is an airplane, this thing's an airplane, this thing's an airplane, this thing's an airplane, this thing's an airplane. And you see all these little specks, those are all airplanes. And you're playing that game for a second. Then something on the propeller goes by, and that's an airplane. And then you're sitting here, and then they call you back and say, traffic no factor. And you're sitting there going, like what I mean? Like, how did I miss that? It should have been on my altitude. But remember, everything is delayed. So when you finally do see it, it's already too late, kind of a thing like that. So it's just one of those things that always scared the pants off me, is the easiest way to say that. All right, let's see here. Over in the chat, let's see. You're wondering what you're most excited about 2024. That's an excellent question, Toro. Well, we talked a little bit about that last time. The big thing for me with 2024 is I'm hoping for better performance. Like, I know that you're like, hey, this thing's running like butter for you. What are you complaining about? Well, first of all, we're over Uruguay, and you can see how flat it is. We'll talk about Uruguay in a minute. Turns out it's a really nice country to live. But the other thing is I'm looking forward to seeing, missions that you can create. Now, the reason I say that is, they've got all sorts of interesting missions that they plan. Forest fires, rescues, all that stuff. Notice how many, by the way, on the trailer for 2024, all involving things with helicopters. I just want to point that out because people can't helicopter. You know why. But one of the problems is I love the idea of missions, but I'd rather have a mission creator. One of the things they always talk about is emergent gameplay. And imagine if we did a live stream, but instead of, me just going from point A to point B kind of a thing, we also had to put the same forest fire out. So that would be awesome. Or like we're doing the oil rig rescue and Toro keeps cutting me off or something like that. I'm like, that was my guy, kind of a thing like that. Not saying you have to gamify it. It has like little points over here in the bottom right corner or anything like that. But the idea that you could create your own quickly, easily, efficiently would just be fantastic in my mind. To me, that would be the ultimate evolution of, the flight sim or experience, where not only can you just get in the plane and go like we're doing right now, but you suddenly have the ability to create that kind of gameplay based on what you're interested in. To me, that is the absolute number one thing that I would like to see in 2024. I'm kind of excited about some of those old retro airplanes too, but that's just me. I have such a soft spot for them, which of course, this plane I have so many hours in is absolutely absurd. But the thing, it's what you like versus what you fly versus what you do in VR, and then all changes. One thing I'm not looking forward to in 2024, of course, is they're probably going to do the same thing they did with this run and say, oh, you need to buy the special pack to get the TBM, or you need to get this piece over here to get that one, or, now this one's $7.99 for the helicopter missions package or something like that. It's like, that's my head, by the way. If I wanted to go play an EA game, I'd go play an EA game, but I think you know the joke there. See how everybody's doing? I warned you, folks. I warned you. Gotta have something that can do 2 1/4. We're not actually doing 2 1/4 here. We're doing fantastic. You can see here. Let's see here. Geez, yeah, it should be right here. I think we're getting, what is it? 282. Yeah, we're doing fantastic. I told you. So as we're enjoying our little flight here, and we're getting ready for that turn. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Toro, when you go to check it out later. The big thing for me is, let me make my own missions. I think of the game Stormworks, for those of you who are not familiar with it, which is a lot of fun. You create your own problems that you can solve, and I appreciate that. And you can get things that allow you to do one thing or one way or one thing another way or something along those lines. I really thoroughly enjoy those items, and I wish those things would continue, especially when a new package. I would also appreciate if they brought a little more systems complexity into things, improved air traffic control. I actually made a video a little while back on the top 10 things that I want to see in 2024, and pretty much kind of summarizing everything that I said there. But we're hoping. Here's to hoping, kind of a thing like that.
Traffic, 5 o'clock, same altitude, less than 1 mile.
Simon, I hate to say it, man, that Virgo is fast. I don't know what that thing runs on, but man, does that thing move. All right, somebody in the chat there made a comment about RPG. That means 2 things to me. First of all, it makes me think of Black Hawk Down. RPG! The other thing it makes me think of is, could you imagine if they brought RPG elements into a flight sim? Like one of your stats is landing smoothness, and it affects how many G's you can take when you hit the ground. Or maybe it's fuel economy, and you got a little fuel bonus or something like that if you're traveling a certain one. Or long range, and when you're doing transport missions, you can't see my finger quotes right now, but they're there. You get paid 10% extra cash so you can buy yourself another plane. You can see all those things and just make them very RPG-like, almost like Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator, where you'd have that kind of arrangement. Huh. Kind of surprised, actually. Interesting. Let me see. Do we have that on that side? This is my brain processing the engineering of this airplane for a second here. Things you don't notice. Okay, these are clearly baffled then. There's probably a baffle here, and a baffle here. I don't know. My brain's going, okay, so if you feel the thing from this, we're tipped up. So that means all the fuel slinks this way. If you put the fuel in this way, it would basically overflow before this side could start to fill. Ah, engineering problem solved.
Traffic. Same altitude.
There he is. They need to remove the quicksand from the taxiways. Nick, I said the same thing at my local airport, and they said that it's for safety, for fire, dealing with some of the flammability of the runway, but I just find it annoying. And Pokey Turtle, of course, is a nice comment there as well, saying, he's like, well, don't forget to buy the special skins for the plane that make you go faster. Oh, yeah, because the red skin gives you an extra 20 knots or something like that. Oh, I hate it. Well, you have to have the gold-plated TBM 930. Like, that would be the absolute correct thing to do. That only makes sense, right? That fills me with sigh. You have no idea how much sigh that fills me with. All right, let's talk about Uruguay while we're up here, kind of a thing like that. So this country's got a couple really, really cool things, things that I had to look up and learn. By the way, I use a random country picker to select where we fly a lot of times, and this is the one I picked today. So Uruguay, of course, is an absolutely fantastic per capita income. It's a very safe country. It has one of the lowest terrorism indexes on the entire planet. Overall satisfaction of people who live here is through the roof. It also has the pleasure of being one of the furthest south capitals in the world. Only Canberra and Wellington are considered to be further south than this capital here. And you're thinking, what about Chile and Argentina, which is literally right over here? Believe it or not, those capitals are further north than us right now. The weather here is temperate. What you see is what you get. Pretty much not all year round, but you do get a little bit cooler months. But because of the lack of mountains and because you have the ocean basically right here, it really does some really nice thing at kind of moderating the climate, providing a land that's actually really, really nice to live in, which I think is great. Oh, nice, nice. Now, apparently, Dad says hi. Hi, Dad. Kind of one of those sort of things like that. Always amusing. All right, so as we're coming around, we're getting up to our first little waypoint here. This is Sudu, and what we're going to do is we're going to come swing around this way. I'm actually going to drop some altitude here so that we can get a little bit closer to the landscape now that I've kind of blasted through the first half of our journey. One thing I do notice is I'm kind of cruising around here. It reminds me kind of the Amazon River, but that's way the heck up that way. For those of you curious economically, one of the largest trading partners is Argentina, because, you know, whenever you share a border, it's kind of like the U.S. What's the largest trading partner? Canada. It's just kind of one of those things. Ooh, we have a Hawk. That is an interesting aircraft. If you want to look at some nice conspiracy theories with DCS, go look up the Hawk and see what happened with it. It's actually kind of amusing. Oh, and one more thing, Toro, if you do watch this one later on. What I really wish they would do, but Microsoft never will, is to make a combat flight simulator version of this, like the old combat flight simulator where you had the whole world. That's just a pipe dream for me, but I would absolutely kill for something like that. By the way, let me check something real fast while I'm thinking. Okay, so I did calculate this correctly. We should get pretty close to running out of gas here if I did the math. Uh-oh, not again. Oh, I'm here. Interesting. Now I have it on both sides. That's absolutely worthless. Oh, okay, now I've done it. Now I've done it. There we go. We'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit, too, as we come swinging around. Good time to put in... Oh, look at this. I'm actually picking up traffic this far away. So in the real world, too, with TCAS and ADSB, you pick up traffic as far as you let it. So I will be sitting here, and then, I kid you not, I could do one of these things on the tablet, and I'd see like 200 people coming into JFK, like 300 people flying into Boston all at the same time, just massive lines everywhere, and you're like... Just kidding, and you zoom way in, and I actually care about the things that are closest. All right, let's start our descent. Go ahead and arm up our altitude here. We're going to come down quite a bit. We have plenty of time to get to our destination today. Down to about 5,000, 4,500, why not? We'll keep it pure VFR today. What the? What the? What is this? I've never seen that. Now I've done it. So the interesting thing is I don't have an altitude alerter in any of the planes I normally fly in the real world. Oh my gosh, it's really broken. I broke it. Whoopsie daisies. Notice, by the way, the meters are working perfectly. So somehow I pushed the magic meter button here. And, okay, fine. I can do meters. I don't care. I'll do 1,500 meters. I think that's fine. Neat. I broke it. That's definitely something I do. I'll have to figure out what I did here. I'm sure if I push the button a couple times, it'll fix it or something like that. But interesting. I've never seen that one before. All right, let's descend. And we're going to go ahead and flip over to a vertical speed descent here. And we're going to give it 500 feet per minute. And that's going to get us moving pretty quick here. Interesting. I know if you push this in... I learned something new today. This is awesome. Let's see, Nictus says, thought Soba was going to do Combat Flight Simulator. I want them to. I mean, trust me, I love DCS to death. But you know what I hate about DCS? You play every same missionist in the same spot of the world all the time. Because that's what you got. And I'm okay with that. I mean, the joke there is, all right, here's the rest of the world. Where would you like to do your combat? Mostly blowing up my house a lot. Because I find that fun. Or, you know, all the hot spots that ever existed in the world, other than the ones that were already modeled, kind of a thing like that. You know how it goes. Interesting point of order here. I have to actually pull the throttle back. This one's not. I'm going to have the little ECS on here that's going to save me. So I'm actually going to pull this back just a tiny bit. One of my good flying buddies flies the PC-12 now. He's got quite a few hours in that thing. And the TBM is not a PC-12. That's one of the interesting things that I found out kind of after the fact, that with the TBM, this is very much a tiny plane. Like, it doesn't feel it, but if you look in the back seat, if you're in this seat right here, I know you can't, you don't get a good look because we're not in VR or anything, but like, if my feet are on my floor, my feet are on the edge of this expensive piece of leather right here, kind of a thing like that. There's not that much room here. But believe it or not, this is it. This is the room you get. So you have to kind of like the person who's sitting next to you here, who's kind of on this side, because there's really not a lot of room that you have to kind of enjoy your little flight. And if you look behind here, there's nothing. We don't have a bathroom, nothing. And this is a narrow airplane. They actually had one of these landing at the local airport that I'm at in Hartford the other day. And what was so fascinating is though he landed flat. There was no flare. It was just the plane just came down and just touched the ground like this. There was no, it was just dunk on the groundway, stop. That was it. And it was strange. And also the gears jacked, which I thought was a very, very interesting, something you don't really get to see. And then, of course, going back to our combat flight simulator there, the interesting thing about combat flight simulator is you could fly it civilly too. So if you wanted to fly the B-17 over, Canada, I'll just pick on Canada for whatever, you could. That was just something you could do. And you could do that all day, every day, all afternoon. You could do recce missions, over, Southeast Iran or something like that. These were all acceptable things that you could do. And I always thought that was so cool about it. And it'd be nice to get another one. But Asobo, I have a feeling they don't want to go down that route. Call it a hunch. All right, let's see what we got here. I don't know how I got stuck in meters mode here. I can guess how I got stuck in meters mode. Let's see if we can figure it out. Everybody's going to learn something today, whether you like it or not. Let's see here. To hard only. Units, magnetic, nautical, distance, speed. I just want nauticals. Feet. Let's see here. Celsius, I'm fine with that. Weight's fine. Weight, fuel's fine. I actually prefer pounds. Not going to worry about that. MFD, I'm not going to change any of these. I could. I'm not going to. And that's it. Scratching my head on this one. I know there's an easy way to do it, but, like, surprise, something new. Maybe it's something in Navigraph I set? I don't think so. Did I do it in here? But no, that makes no sense, because it was working fine earlier. That's not going to be anything. The cool thing here, by the way, is you can program everything. We have the same thing on another aircraft that I fly. No, I don't think so. Oh well. It's not like it's the end of the world or anything. I'm used to working in meters. Oh man. This is a very flat country. Kind of pretty though. I could just imagine, like, I don't see a lot of these, like, United States in flat areas. You just get these straight line highways that just do this. Like if I've traveled out south or out west or something like that, you'll see a line like this, but it'll go off around the horizon, like just like that. These are very much more semi-rural roads here. They're not, although there's a highway right here, it looks like. So you can just imagine sort of bouncing through, kicking up dust and everything. It's so cool. Absolutely so cool. Had to get ourselves positioned here. Let me zoom out a little. Hope we got some traffic coming the other way. Oh, it begins. So if you remember my comment earlier, which is trying to, this kind of thing, whenever you fly on any airways in the United States, you just see a constant line, just like driving a car at night. Now, if you travel at night, all you see is little flashy strobe lights in the distance. It's just a constant buzz of them. And then, of course, you can see we picked this guy up all the way over there. So he's a little bit over me. Embraer, which is exactly the correct aircraft I'd expect for this part of the world, especially if you're a little further up north. That doesn't make sense, though. We're at... No, that makes sense, sorry. Is it 17? 17 minus 6 is going to be about 11, 12. So that makes sense. Cool. How's it going, hockey? Now, what I'm hoping here is as we slip into Montevideo, is that we get a nice look at the city, because it's right across the coast from Montevideo, of course. I don't want to be wrong and get, like, when I say Buenos Aires, when that's not what I meant. But there's another very, very large city right on the opposite side of the bay, which I think is absolutely wild. Again, just cool stuff that you get to see as you kind of journey along here. What an easy-to-fly plane. I mean, this thing, going back to what we were saying earlier about, what if we were run into a situation where we got, $1.5 billion? This would probably be one of the planes that I'd be very interested in. Doing pretty well. Thanks. It's just, one of the jokes my wife and I always make is we need an airplane that sits 6 and has a full tank of gas. Like, a Cherokee 6 could do that, but there's very few other aircraft that can actually succeed at that particular objective. It's just, you either carry passengers or fuel. You can't have both. I know they're designed that way, but I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And a lot of times they're designed that way, actually, because of the center of gravity. And that's one of those things where I didn't know that until somebody explained it to me, saying, okay, let's say there's no weight in the back now because you're not carrying anybody and you're carrying a full tank of gas. Where's your center of gravity? And then kind of vice versa. And it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, that makes much more sense when you look at it from an engineering perspective. But I still want a plane that seats 6, goes fast, and carries a ton of gas. Not going to happen. Oh, seems Simon got a little low here. That's all right. I think we're getting a PC-12 now that I think about it. I hate this leather, by the way, because when you get in this plane, it's going to melt and burn you. Like, you can feel how... why? Another interesting thing, too, is this is something that... Another engineering thing that makes me crazy about airplanes. I have a door. They have a door. No door. So kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, this shouldn't matter. Guess what? It really, really does when you're loading people into a plane.
6 o'clock, same altitude, less than 1 mile.
I'm being tracked down by a hawk. I've been hunted. That traffic's working great, by the way. Now, having your own door, it's such a big deal because when you get in with, especially if you have a passenger up front, which plane like this, you probably don't have a passenger up front. Let's be realistic. I just got passed by that. You'd have to have the person stand up over all these really, really important dials, and not dials, I should say, all these really, really important instruments and things like that, controls, I should say, lean themselves right up against this little circuit board on the side of the bus bars here, and that's dangerous. There's always a chance they're going to put your foot on here, or they're going to sit in here funny. It just, oh my God. Things you don't think about in a flight sim because you just go, but in the real world, you will annihilate a lot of these different chairs. All right, Snesra, you're doing fantastic there, and it looks like if I go way down here, Dev Taken, also into TBM. Cool. Chilling there right by the... Cannot make them out at all. By the way, binoculars plus bouncing airplane equals nausea, in case anybody's curious. It's worth a try, but it doesn't go so well. I can barely make that out, but that's okay. They are moving, but that's all right. Whoa, boy. Oh, cool. Racetrack. Let's take a look real quick here. Sorry about the jump scare acoustically. So amazing. Just so amazing this is all here. It looks so much better than any of the games that preceded it. All right, looking over my nose here, our lovely place in Montevideo is just right over there. We're making fantastic time, probably a little bit better. How's it going, Dev? It was taken. And this is absolutely wild because, like I said, we made fantastic time here. 150 miles, I estimated 45 minutes. We're going to get there like at 25. We did great today, which is all right. So what we will do then is we'll explore the city a little bit before actually landing because we have time today, so why not? Let's see here. Sumu, I kind of like that. And then we got the traffic descending over that. Got a couple set on my tail. 3,200. I appreciate people not riding my wingtip, and so I have to listen to that the whole flight kind of a thing. What do we got here? No problem. Our group flights many years ago were huge affairs, and we're talking like 40, 50, 60 airplanes and 300 people watching at a time. But I don't mind the peace and quiet sometimes, so I can just concentrate on flying. I don't know. Of course, you're saying you haven't flown the plane yet. Shh. Let me do my thing. This is how you fly TBM. The controls are very hard. All right, now Simon's doing some low altitude work. I actually thought about doing this with gliders today, but I figured there'd be absolutely no lift, so it wasn't going to happen very well. Now, one of the interesting things is there's a few other folks who do group flies, and they're like, do all like military craft, and they'll just have like a mob just show up like at Heathrow, like on the busy times on VATSIM, and it's like, okay, let me know how that turns out. Just kind of one of those things. But anybody looking for formation flying practice, I've definitely helped you out a little bit here. I think it's interesting that I backed the throttle out a little tiny bit, and we're basically going the same speed we were at cruise. It's amazing how much drag this aircraft has. The interesting thing, too, is what do we got? We're probably down to 275. We're doing great. Pull that back a little bit. interesting thing is, you know, you hear that constant buzz, like a bunch of angry bees out the front of the airplane, kind of a thing like that. And that does exist in a turboprop. But what we're all missing out on is the fact that you have, you know, headphones on. And if you're wealthy enough to fly this thing, you probably have noise canceling headphones. So that constant buzz you hear just becomes like almost like a wave, like a whoosh noise. Simon, we did see you. As a matter of fact, we still can see you. Oh, wheels up. The gliders are really easy to launch. What you do is you push your rudder pedals left and right, left and right, left and right, and they'll go plonk and launch you. If you're at nighttime, you have to cycle your navigation lights. But if you need them to get going as far as tugging, you just go burp, burp. You literally go like this with the rudders, and they'll start going for you automatically. Of course, if you're referring to the real world, that's a different issue. I know. We're in the middle of South America. Like, we should not be having difficulties with network connection, especially because it's, you know, 11:30 on a Saturday, kind of a thing like that. And deploy it. Oh, we got a C-25. Actually, we can identify that one exactly. And then I wonder if they're... Nope, they're descending. They're below us, so they must be setting up. Okay, so they're landing to the north here. Oh, excellent question, Wheels Up. I believe there is a... keyboard shortcut. Don't quote me on it, but actually, I'll look it up for you. Give me a second. Rudder keyboard shortcut MSFS. Give me a second. It's going to be numpad 0, numpad enter. So just press and hold those, kind of alternating left and right, and that should get you going. That'll definitely get you going. I believe that's what it is. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So numpad 0, numpad enter should get you wobbling back and forth. I believe you have to kind of hold them a little bit to get it to go far enough, but that should do the trick. Interesting thing about those gliders, too, is if you have to, you can start them in the air by just clicking somewhere that's not an airport. Excellent. Hopefully it works for you. And I'll get the plane all sorts of off course here. All right, I want to take a better look at Montevideo, though. We're up still pretty high. Up down to 200 meters. Boop, 300 meters. We'll increase our vertical descent just a little bit. Of course, this is vertical descent in 100,000, not meters per second. Oh my God. So many, many times the speed of sound downward. That would be pretty painful. I believe they call those meteorites. Such an easy plane to fly. Like, as I've said many times in the past, it's probably my favorite plane of all Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's just fantastic. Now, when you put this thing in snow and ice, it gets a little difficult to see, but at least we have the magic button down here that can save us from snow and ice. So it's not too bad. Of course, the snow doesn't really bother you in the real world. It just makes it hard to see.
Traffic, 6 o'clock, high, less than 1 mile.
Nice. Let's see. Check that out real fast. That's Hope, British Columbia. Oh, neat. Vancouver Soaring Association, gliding club owning and operating 7 school and recreational sailplanes, and 2 L-19 bird dogs. Now, one of the fun things with the L-19 there is, depending on what version of the L-19, it's like the military 170, but they have a very, very, very high horsepower version dedicated to towing gliders, and the thing can climb basically vertically. It's fantastic. Of course, your towing a glider doesn't go so well. I love how as we move into the capital, like everything, the roads still look exactly the same that we've been seeing pretty much this entire journey so far. But as you look, all of a sudden, nope. This one, you got like a little city, then it's more grass, and then a big city. It's just so fascinating how it's almost atypical kind of a thing. All right, let's go ahead and now pop it out of automatic pilot here. I'm going to do some sightseeing.
6 o'clock.
All the traffic behind me is about to go, what is he doing? He's a madman. So what my dad used to do many years ago is he did international sales for a company called Sherwood Tool. They basically made machines that turned paper into other things, such as cups. But unfortunately, they're defunct. You got to watch out for that Solo company and the Sweetheart Cup company. They'll get you. But one of the interesting things that he had to do was basically travel all the corners of the globe for the purposes of selling things. This is a gentleman who had been to Australia. He'd been to, Russia. We're talking Saudi Arabia. We're talking India, Australia, all of them kind of a thing. And multiple times he had to come down here, actually, interestingly enough, to go visit places like Montevideo. And it was always kind of fun where, you had to get like a guide to help you kind of get around and stuff like that. 191, 111.10. Thanks, Ness. 191, thank you for that. I like that. Thank you. Most appreciated. All right, let's see here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me go dial that in real fast. Then take the information. I do that every single time in this plane. Why am I being blind? Nope. This plane really is pulling to the right for some reason. I gotta take a look at why it's doing that kind of a thing.
Traffic, 6 o'clock, high, less than
Yeah,
a mile.
not gonna worry about it. Like I said, I'm being absolutely blind here. No, I'm not being blind. I'm being forgetful. 111.1, which is also the same frequency as our one up in Bradley, which is kind of nice. Nope, nothing wrong with my yoke. Look at my pedals. No, pedals are good. We're just pulling one way or the other for some reason. Fuel imbalance? Nope. I'll have to go check my trim. There we go. All right, let's check out the city. I could probably do something like that, Swarm. I'd have to go figure out what airports I visited. If you gave me a minute, I could go back. Well, not right now, but a little later on, I could probably go back and look at that, put that on my to-do list for next week, kind of a thing like that. It was fun. Like I said, I liked that. I don't know if anybody liked that series or not. The views were like, kind of meh. But then again, it's just kind of where I am. So not in New York or anything, or we've got like JFK's. We barely, like I said, even have an international airport. So kind of work with what you got, kind of a thing. There we go. That knocked the Twitch out of it nicely. All right, let's go take a look at the city real fast before we get too carried away. Of course, people are like, what if you did global airports as opposed to, Connecticut airports? It'd be like, there's a lot of airports out there. Got your Lucas and stuff like that, which is interesting but not practical airports. Or Lucerne or something. I always forget. Then you get kind of the fun airports, like, I always forget the one that exists, and I think it's Western China. And it's like the world's longest runway, except for like Edwards and stuff like that. Hey! Antonio, long time no see. We're actually thinking about another European trip, stopping by Italy. Just want to see the city. Just have time. Yes, according to Antonio, the engine in this thing is indestructible. I put that to the test to make all sorts of angry red lights come on, but then people will be like, what are you doing? I do have damage turned on, by the way, in case anybody's curious. And I didn't kill us this time, which is kind of unexpected. I've blown us up many, many times in the last few live streams, unfortunately. Sure. Yep. Because in the video itself, when I was going over the airports, I did try to say the name of E1 each time. The big thing is, when it comes to Connecticut airports, we could do a live stream and visit every airport in Connecticut and still only be done in an hour. It's just one of those nice things about being in a little state instead of being in a huge state. Like we did this in Alaska, for example. It would take us 20 hours to kind of hit all the airports in the state. Not because there's so many, but because they're so far apart. Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Ultralights are like the most fun of the airplanes. I mean, aircraft like this, they get you there, and they're really good at getting you there, but you have to be super careful, precise about everything. Ultralight planes are like these twitchy motorcycle scooter flying things. They're so much fun. And they're very visceral too, because everything is right there, like the wind noise and the fact that you're hand is inches from the engine. It's so fascinating. Also, Oye de Montevideo. Love the painted buildings. It's so cool.
500.
I love how I can hear 500 through the propeller noise outside of the plane. I'm not gonna think about that too much.
Traffic. 6 o'clock.
So awesome.
Less than 1 mile.
Here's a flight simism, by the way, for all those who you're curious. Do you see this bank angle that I'm using here? This like nice, comfortable, 15, 20 degrees kind of a thing like that. In the real world, I'm sorry, that's 30 degrees. You never use this angle with passengers. Like you and I in the flight sim world are like, oh, okay, no problem. And you just off you go kind of a thing like that. You do this routine. Like you just can't do this with passengers. They will not appreciate this at all. Especially, if you have a passenger on your left wing behind you kind of a thing like that, or right there, that chap. They're not going to appreciate this view. It's kind of one of those things where, you do it all the time. Even in flight training, like you kind of stop banking a lot unless you have to for some emergency situation. It's kind of one of those things that I don't know, very much a flight simism kind of a deal. I want to get a good look at the beach here, see if anybody's down there. One of the fun things is traveling in Italy and France a few years back is that all the beach umbrellas, like I guess you rent them or something like that, because they're the identical style and color. So you just have a field of these little blue and white, umbrellas sitting on the beach, or they have like red and white, and there's identical, like a bunch of like freckles kind of a thing. And no, nobody is on the beach today.
Traffic. 6 o'clock.
Like that little kind of main highway.
Mile.
Probably hotels right there, but very cool. Absolutely very cool. Like how just the hive of bees that powers this thing just gets less patient with me. How much? Actually, wait a minute. I calculated it feel pretty tight today. Yeah, I did. Swing over this way. There we go. Now, a few moments ago, they were telling us that our ILS today is 111.10, and we're going to be probably a 19 or 1 heading, I think is what it was. Let's go ahead and float down here. We'll switch over to localizer 1. Hey, look at that! It automatically calculated it. Thank you, Antonio. Good to see you. Awesome. Roma's definitely an interesting place. Definitely an interesting place. Haha, that'd be so cool. Could you imagine that, actually meeting up with somebody in a different country, having met them on a YouTube stream? That would just be, oh man, it's so fascinating. So absolutely fascinating.
6 o'clock. High. Less than 1 mile.
Give it a couple taps of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the reverse course here and come back around and land. I think that'll be the simplest. Interesting things you learned in your early days of instrument flying is that anything that can go one way can also go the other way very, very easily and safely. And once you kind of start embracing that philosophy, it makes instrument flying a lot less intimidating. It just adds one more thing that you can kind of do with your little puzzle in order to be a safe pilot. There we go. It's pretty good right there. Not bad. Not bad at all. Ourselves a quick little back course here. Not bad. Yeah, we're a little off, but that's all right. Interesting thing. Ah, there it goes. Yeah, so there it is. So now we can actually start flying it. Back course, by the way. So unfortunately, everything is backwards. That's all right. Hold this right here. This looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ride it out a couple miles, and then we'll turn ourselves around here. Let's see here. We have 1 mile. Keep going. Actually, wait a minute. What does the DME say? 2 miles. Keep going. We want to do at least 5 miles, and then we'll do a teardrop and come back around. Might as well go all the way, right? We have plenty of time today. There it goes. Oh, the heck is what am I flying? A 152 here? Should be behaving. There we go. Much better. Now, one of my buddies was always commenting about basically you're trying to center those needles. How in the early days of centering the needles, it's this like nightmare of left and right and trying to do this and trying to do that and all those other pieces. But then all of a sudden it just becomes not second nature. It just you stop thinking about it, and all of a sudden that's when you start to get good at it, kind of a thing like that. It's just sort of one of those things. There we go. It's 4.1. Speaking of which, I got to start swinging back the other way. We're going to do our little teardrop in a second. And that's 4.5. That'll be good right there. Let's give it a second to recenter. It's going to overshoot. And there's 5. Now, if you're wondering what a standard rate turn is on this, by the way, if you take a look at that little 0, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that little tiny magenta line underneath it, that arc, that tells you how fast your turn is. If that arc exactly hits the line it's on, you're doing a standard rate turn, in case anybody's keeping score there. Little tiny things. That stuff matters, though. One of the aircraft that actually fly on a regular basis, they actually had to take it back in because the turn coordinator was not showing the correct rate of turn. And it's one of those things, as a VFR pilot, you never look at the darn thing. As an IFR pilot, that's kind of important. There we go. Try to lose a little bit of altitude as we finish up our turn here. The other thing you learn too is don't do everything at once. One thing at a time, and you'll be much, much safer. Whoops, a little too much. There we go. Nice. One of the things I'm so impressed with this aircraft
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
is how incredibly low the approach speed on this thing is.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Yep, landing 1.9er. We are very high. Fortunately, we have thrust reversers on this thing, which makes it real easy to fix that problem.
Traffic. 6 o'clock. Low. Less than 1 mile.
Haha. Bringing the vision in.
Traffic. 6 o'clock. High. Less than 1 mile.
Now, we have an 85 knot approach speed, which I think is amazing. And all fixed. Not bad. Not bad in the slightest. This is such a good plane. It's the Hawk passing me there, but that's all right.
Minimums.
Landing. I'm not jerking the controls around. That's the new patented Microsoft turbulence. Whoa! Hey, you. That's close enough. Landing. Now, if I do this as a TBM landing, you basically sit 2 inches off the ground and you settle all 3 tires down at the same time like that. That's a TBM landing. We're here. Woohoo! All right, if you'd like to join us in the picture, we're going to be right up here at the... Actually, I think we're holding up traffic. We're going to be right over here, in case anybody's interested with us today. That'll be pretty good. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So as always, when we reach the end of our live stream, I'm always interested to find out what kind of things are you folks interested in seeing more of? Are you looking for more videos like what I did the other day when we did a kind of a bunch of runways? Would you like me to do some stuff more with airliners? I have a couple things kind of planned coming up in the next month. We'll probably take another look at the Airbus A310, the 320, bunch of those different many major airliner kind of things to see a lot of the stuff they've changed in some of the more recent versions here. And I believe I just kind of choo-chooed across major traffic to do this, but that's okay. Stuff happens. Oh well. There we go. So one thing that I hope they don't change, like, you know, it's like going off the edge of the runway. You lose 600 driver points, and now you can no longer get the perfect landing bonus or something like that. Please don't ever do that, Flight Sim. Please don't. I think you encourage the wrong way to approach flying. Because let's be honest, the best career pilots in existence with 20,000 hours still bump and bounce. It's just the way it is sometimes. Ta-da! All right, come join us if you'd like to kind of hop into our little picture here. We'll grab that picture, and then we'll go smoosh into the ocean not too far away from here. I like how there's a crew alert system. Parking brake! There was actually a really bad accident at an airport called Robertson near us, where somebody left the parking brake on during takeoff. Yes, I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. Let me just zoom out and get a quick picture here. We're getting a Juvilia. Go ahead and grab that picture real quick. Oh, you overshot, Cirrus. Oh, you're backing up. I like that. I like that. It's all right. I got that picture before the big hawk disappeared. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and head out over to the ocean real quickly here. You're about to see a bunch of red lights up here to my right, but that's okay. There it is. What did I get? 110 out of this? 108. Yes. Let's go.
Same altitude.
You really want to see chaos? Put all players on and go to KSFO and watch that traffic do its thing. It is the most terrifying thing you'll ever see. Let's see here. What are we going to land on? What are we going to land on? What looks good? What looks good? I mean, that little puddle right there looks pretty awesome. It's going to take us a while for them to fish me out of that, though. Bet you it's really shallow, though, so I don't know. I gotta destroy the evidence here. That looks pretty good over there. Ah! That's excellent, Wheels Up. That is excellent. It happens! Honestly, it happens. And, like, it gets the best of us, too. Like, I won't fly for 3 months, fly a plane, and get perfect landings. I will fly day after day, perfect, and totally mess up the landing that was the critical landing that I needed to do during the last part of my flight. It's just what happens.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Stall. Landing gear. Stall. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Which...
Landing gear.
Oh, there it is. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, this is a good one. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed our first live stream for today, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future. Other than that, have a great rest of the day, everyone. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Enjoy.